This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Ann-Marie Andrich, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR. Welcome.
Thank you.
I am so extremely happy.
Stop it.
Dr. Tomas Chamorro-Premuzic. You're here.
The man himself.
You made it.
Yeah, apparently so. I want to say this is not a deep fake. AI has not advanced as much. Actually, I think this is the real me. Here I am.
You're here,
Yeah.
and we're so happy.
Yeah.
So, you're a true HR The Real Deal friend.
I am.
We've had a couple of summits.
Yeah.
You're the one speaker who has been with us the most times, 3 times. The reason for that is because you are who you are. Now, who are you? You're an author, you're a
Yes.
psychologist,
Yes.
you're an entrepreneur, you're a lecturer, you're a professor,
Yeah.
you're a thought provocateur.
Yes.
You're like the hardest working man in academia. You've
Yeah.
published...
I thought we were going to say in Hollywood, but I'm not there.
Maybe
Yes.
that's next. That's
Yeah.
next, right? But
Yeah.
is it 10 books you published?
15.
Oh my God, is it
I
15?
know, but 13 have never been read by anybody, so it doesn't count. But yeah, 15.
15 books.
Yeah.
How many articles published in Forbes, The Guardian, Harvard Business Review?
Hundreds, I'm like ChatGPT, but the human version is just churning out content.
Exactly.
A lot.
A lot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because that is exactly why you are a true friend of HR The Real Deal,
Yeah.
and why we keep inviting you back. Because
Well, I like to say that it's also because of the impeccable taste of the HR community in Sweden, so I cannot resist. And of course, last time you even sang my happy birthday.
We did.
In Swedish.
We did,
Which was
we
a
did.
surreal experience, but memorable.
Wonderful. Great. Really happy to have you
Same
on the HR VOD and pod. Now, given that you're so versatile in your research and your interest and what you bring to the world, it's hard to pick a topic.
Yeah.
But I thought,
Yeah.
why not leadership?
Why not?
Because you've been doing research on leadership for quite some years.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we start with why? Why leadership?
It's a very good question, which actually not many people have asked me. But I think, I got interested in leadership growing up in Argentina, where you also immediately get curious about incompetent leadership and the dark side of leadership. And then, I think you know this, but I started my career as a psychoanalyst. So I was always fascinated by, things going wrong and sort of like the turbulent, sort of like dark side or dark triad part of individuals. When these people become leaders, it's very consequential because, you become Argentina and not Sweden. And the same happens with organizations, right? So about 25 years ago or so, I got really interested in the subject.
And you've done quite a lot of research throughout the years on leadership.
Yeah, a lot. They say research is me-search, so maybe I'm trying to understand my own kind of leadership incompetence.
Okay, well let's now, given the fact that you've studied that topic so thoroughly, if you were to give us like a snapshot of how leadership has developed throughout the years, how would you summarize where we were, let's say, 25 years ago and where we are today?
Not at all. It's the same. There's the same number of good leaders, same number of bad leaders. Our understanding maybe has increased and improved, but if you think about the things we often, desire and talk about, humility, self-awareness, psychological safety, grit, growth mindset, coachability. We keep on asking about these things because we don't get them that often. And so I think we know what we should be getting, but there's a big difference or a big gap between the leaders we want and those we actually get. And I exist in that gap. Not as myself personally, of course, but that's my interest.
That's your
reducing that gap.
Exactly. And on the topic, you wrote a book, As It Happens.
Oh, casually lying around
casually
here.
lying around here, and it's got this very, very smart title. Why do so many incompetent men become leaders and how to fix it? And this was actually released some years ago.
Yes.
But it's still relevant.
Yeah, it was written at a time when ties were more common. I had to wear a tie the other day because I wanted some like secretive cultish society meeting. But incompetent leaders are still common. Now, some people ask me, is that your unauthorized autobiography? No, no, no. Look, the book was actually conceived as an antidote to the lean-in movement, which I think was well-intended, but also I think it has the unintended consequences of ending up a little bit like what I would say is benevolent sexism. Because if we point the finger at women for not self-promoting, not applying to jobs when they don't meet the qualifications, not speaking in meetings because they have nothing to say, and not behaving like incompetent men, we're not fixing the problem. So the book is based on a very, very simple premise that if we want to make it easier for competent women to become leaders, you have to make it harder for incompetent men to become leaders because they are still overrepresented in the leadership ranks.
They are.
Yeah, and so that did very well. It's actually based on an HBR article that I think is the most popular HBR article of all times.
And you do TED Talks and
I do that, yes. And all my colleagues who are long-time feminists, female academics, keep telling me, you realize they only listen to you because you are a charismatic and competent man. And I said, well, if that is true, the theory is correct, so I'll take it.
Okay, so walk us through what are the traits then that are portrayed and, let's say, appreciated in leadership, and the reason why you then say incompetent men actually have those positions.
Yeah, so first of all, what is an incompetent leader? Somebody who has negative effects on their team, that they get a group of A players and turn them into a B team. They cause high levels of disengagement, high levels of burnout, high levels of stress, high levels of turnover, low levels of productivity, low levels of profitability, low levels of innovation, etc. Right? Oscar Wilde said, some cause happiness wherever they go, and others whenever they go. Whenever they go is the incompetent man. And actually, they end up there because there is a systematic difference between the qualities that make somebody stand out in typical selection processes, like narcissistic, charismatic, overconfident men interview really well. And you think, wow, this person is great people skills. Actually, not really. Just like you wouldn't marry somebody after a 5-minute interaction in a first date, don't appoint somebody to a CEO position because they excel in an interview. And so they tend to be confident rather than competent. They tend to be charismatic, but also a little bit psychopathic and narcissistic. And they tend to basically be very focused on their own career progression and on managing up as opposed to leading and managing down. And so, I don't need to give examples of famous political figures that would exemplify this because everybody can use their imagination. But that's basically the profile I described. And it's important to understand that many, many men don't have these characteristics. Many men are self-aware, humble, self-critical, coachable, have integrity, and actually, because they have these features, they're often overlooked for leadership roles.
Interesting.
So you advance your career often because of your incompetence, and you're excluded because of your competence. And then we keep lamenting, wouldn't it be nice to have leaders who are humble, empathetic, etc., etc., etc. So, that's the gap that I described when the original article was published and the book came out. Fortunately for book sales, the world is the same old place. But unfortunately for all of us, the world is the same old place.
How do you fix it then?
You fix it by following the science and focusing on the qualities that actually make people better leaders, especially when they don't make people leaders. So focus on substance, not style. De-emphasize the importance of informal, intuitive interactions, unstructured, poorly designed interviews. even past accolades of success and educational credentials. Focus on things like science-based personality assessment. Ask people who have worked for somebody what it is to work for that person.
So reference checks.
No,
Or?
actually, even 360
Right.
degrees feedback, and look at what employees say about their boss. The best way to understand or predict if your boss is gonna basically screw you is ask the people that work for them.
Right.
And so I think then we follow the science, we focus on the right qualities, I'm on a long-term battle against human intuition, which is part of the problem. And then, very important, Anne-Marie, put in place objective indicators of how leaders perform. Because if we continue to evaluate leadership performance as a popularity contest, many people who are very good at self-promoting, taking credit for other people's achievements and blaming others for their mistakes, they are like Mr. Popularity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so what are the objective criteria then? How do you set those in motion, and how do you assess?
So the objective criteria or KPIs or indicators of effective leadership or leadership competence are how engaged is your team, what is morale like, what's performance like, what's your team's productivity, what's your team's level of burnout, what's the indices or the onset of counterproductive work behaviors, right? And so you measure these things and you compare it with other teams in the same culture or in other cultures, and voila, that's the difference between somebody who's doing things right and somebody who isn't.
Right. And are there cultural differences on leadership?
Yes, of course. In Argentina, we're all very talented, and now cultural differences, it's a great question. The what is universal.
Yeah.
Every culture, and in fact any society, is the same whether you talk about a team at Spotify who is executing on the next phase of the digital transformation, or a group of hunter-gatherers 200,000 years ago. The objective is the same, to collaborate effectively in the pursuit of a common goal, which requires individuals to set aside their selfish agendas and temporarily work as a cohesive unit. The what of leadership talent that determines that is always the same: ability, likability, and drive. You need to have thinking skills, you need to have people skills, and you need to have drive, by which I mean not pathological levels of ambition, but the right drive. It includes integrity.
Yeah.
How that is then manifested in different cultures is visible, right? So if you follow the same approach in Sweden that you follow in Argentina, it's not going to work, and vice versa. So some are more direct, some are more indirect. As you know, I'm a big fan of passive aggressiveness as opposed to overt aggressiveness. I spent 10 years in the UK where I actually thought I was so interesting when people told me that's so interesting, which means it's absurd and you're an idiot, right? But I like the subtlety of, passive aggressive, sort of leisurely, polite rejection.
Polite rejection.
Yeah, I like that. Because it gives me the illusion that maybe actually when you smile and you say, thank you, that was great, maybe I was great.
Maybe you were. But are you doing research on that, passive aggressive? Because that indirectness, it's quite interesting. And you see that in cultures as well. You have the very direct cultures, and then you have, if I compare, for example, you're half Slavic.
Yes, we are volcanic people.
Exactly.
Power to Balkans.
Very direct.
Yeah.
And then you have the Swedish one. Swedish culture, which is indirect.
Yeah, of course. In the Balkans, if you shout at me and you tell me a whole range of insults, it's because you like me and it's okay, right?
Yes.
And then here...
And I'm being honest.
I'm
being direct.
Yeah. I think culture and language is always multidimensional. And part of its point is because there is an in-group that understands and an out-group that doesn't understand. So if you travel to any country and you don't want to flex and you want to behave like you do in your culture, it's not going to work. But you're also going to miss out on a lot of these subtle kind of signs, right? Double meaning and interpret that between the lines. So I'm doing a lot of research on this. In fact, my next book will be on authenticity. Which is an attempt to debunk this notion that, you should always be yourself, you should always be transparent, you should bring your whole self to work, and, you shouldn't worry about what people think of you, and you should always follow your feelings no matter what. What if your values are wrong? There is this thing called other people, and you should care about them and actually put yourself in their shoes, and your whole self to work. I mean,
do we really want
my
to
whole
see?
self isn't even welcome at home. In fact, yeah, at home they want to send it to work or somewhere else. But the point is that each situation requires us to express relevant elements of our identity and our personality. And I think we're doing young people a very kind of poor service if we're encouraging them to go to a job interview and just say whatever they want and not care about what people think of you and assume that they are, the hero in their own mind or as good and talented as maybe their parents think they are. The real you is somebody who perhaps, I think maybe 4 or 5 people in the world have learned to love
and accept
or tolerate maybe. But tolerance is good, right?
Yeah, tolerance.
It sounds like a bad thing, but it's a good thing.
It's a good thing for sure. But that is a new book.
Yeah, that's coming out in October next year.
So 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll still be here in this lovely rooftop.
We will, and you know that you will get an invitation back.
Thank you.
My dear.
Yeah.
You're actually here in Stockholm you've done a training. A session with Spotify leaders.
Yeah, I don't think that I am a trainer, so I'm uncomfortable with the term. But I was talking to them.
Yeah, you were talking to them.
Yeah.
Sharing wisdom.
Yeah, as my friend Rob Kaiser said, I'm not a consultant, I'm an insultant.
Okay.
So,
but you were here for leadership.
I was trying to help them think what it means to lead and to manage in the AI age, in the age of AI.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That is a great cliffhanger for the next episode.
Oh, yes, of course. So we will be back?
We will be back.
Fantastic.
Now, do you hear? We will have to do another one.
Yes, excellent.
So, extremely inspiring as always, Thomas. You know how we close these episodes?
I'm a huge fan of the show, but I never made it to the end, always something comes up.
What
so
happened?
I don't know.
So it wasn't that interesting.
Yeah, no, it's always something that, I'm a very busy person, so.
Of course you are, of course you are.
So,
3 things.
Okay.
3 things.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, stay safe,
Stay strong.
stay active.
Idemo dalje.
That's
That was the easy
perfect.
part.
Exactly.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now the alert viewer may have noticed we are here.
Do you do hair and makeup?
No. Should I?
No, I'm just wondering.
What you see is what you get.
Exactly. But it's not too shabby.
There you go.
Looking good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Normally,
Yes.
we do 15 minutes.
Okay.
Now, given that you are the rock star you are,
We will do 5.
for the first time, we look into the camera.
Yes.
Where would you like us? There.
Oh.
There. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, we can. Of course.
Yeah, there. But people know that we're on spot, on the rooftop. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah, they can figure. Okay. Very good. It's a beautiful view here.
It's nice. It's
Yeah.
nice.
I feel like you're going to use this outtakes. It's going to be there. It's okay.
That's the behind the scenes.
Yeah.